For joining. I wanted to do a demo of the Crew Access video production management website that I've put together. I talk about it on the channel here quite a bit, but I've never really done a very good job of demonstrating or even talking about what it's actually capable of doing. So this video is going to be me going through the site and talking about different features that it has, and I'm going to try and cover in as much detail as I possibly can. However, there's an awful lot there. I know I can't get to everything. This video is actually being streamed live, and I have a handful of people in the chat room who are going to try and prompt me with their questions about the site, and so I can at least cover the things that they're most interested in, the things they're most concerned about. So if you do happen to be watching live, make sure to put your questions into the chat, and I will try and address them as we go. So a little bit of background on Crew Access. It's a website that I initially created for my own company. I had no intent of actually sharing it with anybody, doing anything public with it at all, and I used it that way for about a year and a half. So I used it to, the idea was to have a way to communicate with potential crew members. So, I'd done things the old-fashioned way where, text, email, whatever, people in order to hire a crew for an event. And that always seemed very antiquated to me. It seemed like a very awkward way of doing things. And I knew there had to be a better way of doing it. So I actually put together a website specifically for hiring a crew, and then everything else sort of came later. But the idea was, I create an event on the site, it sends an email out to a pool of contractors, they come to the site and they bid on a job, and then when it comes time to hire, I look through the bids that have come across and choose who's going to be best based on their skill level, based on how familiar they are with my gear, with my company, and what their rate is. And so, also in addition, like how good they are to work with. Are they problematic, or are they people that everybody likes working with? So, but it gives me the information that I need in order to effectively hire a crew. And so that's kind of the genesis of this site. So I started using it for my own crew in about mid 2017, and then by fall 2017 I was using it very heavily for events that we were doing. And about a year later, around July, August of 2018, some people who saw it had mentioned, hey, you ought to sell this, you ought to make this available to other people as well. And so at that point I started making all the changes in order to make it something that I could share with others as well. So doing things like being able to split off multiple sites for different companies, being able to have different user databases for each company, and additionally doing internationalization. So like currencies are presented in the local currency for a particular country, and things like that. So also just removing a lot of things that are specific to the United States where I happen to be. So instead of requiring a zip code when a user logs in, just have a generic postal code and have that be optional. Just a lot of little things like that. And it took a little while in order to get all that going. But by August, September 2018 thereabouts, I made a mention of it here on my YouTube channel, and a bunch of people request to be able to use it. At that point I didn't have any way of billing them for it, so it was just a freebie. But by December of that year I made a public announcement, billing became available, and the site became public. And since that time we've had nearly 400 companies sign up for the site, a lot of which are very actively using it at this point, and quite a few are on paid plans, although the majority are on free. I'm not going to pretend that those 400 companies are providing a steady source of revenue for me or anything like that, but there are quite a few that are on paid plans at this point, and interestingly enough, those are skewing more and more towards the higher end enterprise plan that I have on the site. So I think it seems that a lot of those features that are on that higher end plan are features that people actually want and are desirable. So anyway, I don't want to talk too much before I actually get in and do a little bit of a demo here. So with that said, so here is the homepage for the site. Not pretty, I know. Again, I mentioned this in the pre-roll, but I'm not a graphical designer. I'm not that kind of person. So it's not super pretty, but it is functional, I will say that. I use Crew Access for every event that I do, and when it doesn't do something that I need, I add it. And along with that, when customers have needs that the site doesn't currently address, I'm more than open to adding those things as well. A lot of the features that are on the site came about because they were customer requests. And somebody said, hey, does the site do this? And I'll say, well, it doesn't yet, but give me some more information about what you need, and then maybe I'll add it for you. And I've added a lot of things that were customer ideas to the site and just made it better for everybody in the process of that. So anyway, so this is the home page. There's a very quick demo. It's getting rather old at this point, but there's a very quick demo of the major subtopics major topics of the site that is going on there, and just a little bit of brief information there. So I wanted to go over to the pricing tab. Notice that I have a free plan. The free plan is limited, and it's designed to give you a preview of what's there, or to meet your needs if your company is very, very simple. You know, if it's just you and a couple of other people, the free plan is probably all you're going to need. But if you really want the true power of the site, that's where we get into the paid plans, and we've got basic, professional, and enterprise. And at this point, most of the customers are actually on the enterprise plan. That has skewed more and more that direction over time. And what you get with these other plans, first of all, you get an upgrade with the number of logins that you can have on the site. So each crew member needs to have a login on the site. And as you go up the ladder here, you get more and more logins with different tiers. So at basic you get 20, professional you get 50, in enterprise you get 100. You start to get other things like in the basic plan you have the option to do text messaging, which is not available in the free plan, though that is through a third-party site. You start to be able to track more resource items. In the context of the website, a resource item is a piece of equipment, or it can be a room, or a venue, anything that you need to schedule or keep track of. Those are resources, and the higher end plans offer more of those than you get with the lower ones. You get the ability to manage 50 contacts instead of just 15 when you go to basic, and then that goes all the way up to 500 on the enterprise. You get some very basic resource tracking, so assigning resources to events, things like that. There is an email mailing list, so if you need to do an email blast out to your customers or even your crew, you can certainly do that. You do get some storage for some file attachments, which does not come with the free one, so you can attach files to events and other things on the site as well. And you also get some time clock features, so the ability for your crew members to clock in and out, and then you can run reports based on how many hours that your crew members are actually spending on the job. So, and you go up to professional. It also adds a quotation and invoice builder. So if you need to build a nice looking invoice or a quotation for a customer, you can do that on the site. That also is available for crew members that have accounts on your site. So your camera operators and whatever, they can build invoices for you for when they work for you right there on the site using that invoice builder. There's also a way to track travel costs. So that would be flights, hotels, rental cars, those kinds of things. There's features on the site specifically for that. And the professional version also adds gives you the option of adding your own custom logos. So if you log onto the site, you know, it says Crew Access here across the top. You get to the professional and higher end plans, you can replace those graphics with your own to do your own branding. So you can actually make the site look a lot more like your own website, or give it your own custom look and feel based on your particular brand. You get step into the enterprise. It's mostly just more of the same. However, you can use your own custom domain name, so you don't have to use mycompany.crewaccess.com. You can purchase a domain name, and those who purchase the annual subscription to the enterprise version actually get a $20 credit towards hover.com for a domain name there, and I will take care of the registration on that. So if you do happen to sign up for that annual enterprise plan, so all you have to do is tell me what domain name you want, and then I handle all of it. So, and a lot of my customers are actually using that, and so they'll have a website domain of their own just for going into Crew Access. You couple that with the custom branding and then the custom CSS that's also added in the enterprise plan, and you can really make the site look a lot more like it's your own and not something that's being you're paying a subscription from somebody else. So that said, I have a demo site set up. Oh, I should also mention before I leave the pricing page, if you scroll down a little bit farther on that page, there is a chart of most of the features of the site and which versions actually do include those features as well. Also, I should also mention that some of these limits get bumped up when you move from a monthly up to 6 months, or 3 months, 6 months, or annual subscription. So, for example, I click on annually there, and then on enterprise plan, the number of crew user accounts jumps from 100 to 150. So, just a little thank you for doing the longer term billing. And there's also a price break as well. So, if you do the annual, you get 10% off as compared to the monthly rate. I should also mention that I hate sites that force you to email or call for cancellation, and so I have completely avoided that on this site. If you're done, you don't want to use the site any longer, cancellation is just a couple of mouse clicks away. It's really easy to do. I don't want people to jump through hoops. I don't want people reaching out to me in order to have to do that either. So, you know, I don't want to hear from somebody when they cancel. It's there for you to do yourself. So, and changing subscriptions is something you can do at any point as well. There are some restrictions with the billing platform that I'm using where I can't offer refunds if you cancel. If you have a monthly plan and you cancel before the end of the month. But if you change to a different plan, you do get credit for if you know your company's not doing as well as maybe you'd hoped, and you need to cut back on which level of plan you have. You do get credit for the remaining portion of your plan when you switch to even to a lower tier plan. So try to make the billing as painless as possible. Make it. I try to be as honest and upfront with you as possible as well. So I'm tried not to be like a lot of these other companies that are just out there to get your money. I'm trying to offer a product that's actually useful for you, and the reason I charge for it is because it actually does cost me money to run this, and it helps to offset my time for the amount of work that I put into it. Like I say, I'm always making changes on it. There's not a lot in terms of management of the site for me, but I am constantly making changes, and so yeah, so I do ask that people to pay for the higher end versions of the site. That does go directly towards helping me to continue to develop new features for the site moving forward. So anyway, so all right. So that said, I do have a demo site set up. So this is running basically the enterprise plan. So this one has all of the features that are available at the highest tier, and I'll try and remember as I go to talk about which of these features is available at the different tiers and what the limitations might be on the lower tiers. So this first page is the one that you actually see after you've signed up and logged in as administrator. So the users that sign up for the site see similar things, but there's some things that they're not allowed to see. For example, you come over here to this event status tab, and that's not available for general users of the site. That's available for you as an administrator or for crew members who have created an event on the site. So anyway, so just to do a quick run through of the major tabs here. So the home button here, it's basically the page we're on now, and then we have a clock in. This is the time clock feature, so your crew members and employees can clock in and out, keep track of their hours. Events is where we set up events, and we also configure projects. I'll get a lot more into projects here in a minute. That's something that's relatively new for the site, but yeah, we'll get into that. And then we have worksheets, and then job invoicing, travel information, and then something called special projects. That's also a pretty new feature on the site. Then we get information about the crew, so we can see what crew members have signed up. We can add a new crew member manually. We can add multiple crew members very quickly, and then there's a link in there to also send an invitation to somebody to sign up. So you don't actually create an account for them. You just basically say, hey, here's the site, please come sign up. And then we have a place to view the blackout dates. So a blackout date is basically where a crew member says, I'm not going to be available from this date to this date, and then that turns off notifications of jobs. It turns off their availability when you go to hire, so they don't show up in those listings and so forth. The next major section here is contacts, and contacts are basically anybody outside your organization, outside your crew, outside the people that you work with on a regular basis that you interact with. So that would include regular customers you've had, potential sales leads, venues that you work with, other companies that you work with, people that you actually hire for services. Those kinds of things, you can keep track of those in the contacts menu there. And there's basically a contact or customer relationship management feature built into the site, and that's what this track interactions is. I'd like to cover that in this video. However, that's one of the features that I might not be able to get to in the amount of time that we have. You can also edit the contact types. So each contact you have in the database, you're able to specify a type, whether it's a sales lead or a venue or that kind of thing. And you're able to edit that list that are there. So resources, as mentioned, these are anything that you need to schedule or keep track of. So the main use for this would be equipment, and I have most of the equipment that I use on a regular basis stored in here. It keeps track of serial numbers, purchase dates, purchase prices. It does on the higher end tiers of Crew Access. It actually does keeps track of the value of equipment over time, so depreciation costs and those kinds of things. The resource feature also has the ability to check items in and out, And then somewhat recent, within the last about 8 months, it also has the ability to do rentals, equipment rentals. So if you rent out your equipment to other people, it'll keep track of that and actually build invoices for them to pay you for it. There are something called resource collection. So if you've got a collection of items, equipment that you use regularly for events, you can build those into a collection, and then every time you need to schedule one of those events, you just add the collection to the event instead of having to add each item manually. And then we have a way to import resources. So if you've used another equipment tracking system in the past, just generate a CSV file, bring that in here. And then we have the ability to edit the different resource types, so cameras, tripods, whatever. You can create whatever categories you want. And then the label layouts, I would love to do a demo of this, but I'm not sure that I'm going to have time today. But the site has the ability to print out labels that go on equipment, and then you can use either your cell phone with a camera or barcode scanners in order to do check-in, check-out, or rentals. So you can use QR codes or barcodes, and the site was able to generate those for you. All right, so next we have the reports tab. There's a number of reports here to help you keep track of your finances. So like the cost report's been tremendously popular. This allows you to pull in all the cost information that you've got from everywhere on the site and run reports on it. So you say, what did this event actually cost me to do? So it brings in your labor, your travel, everything, so any equipment that you needed to rent. It brings it all into one place, and so you can run a report, and that helps you to make sure that you're actually profitable on the events that you're running. We've also got a year-end labor report, and that's one that I'm going to need to run here real soon to make sure that I can generate my paperwork for the people that worked for me last year and get those mailed out, those 1099s. Time clock report lets you see how many hours that your crew has been working. Depreciation report, again, as mentioned, the site will keep track of the value of your equipment over time. Resource maintenance, so the site actually has the ability to give you reminders for, say, for example, you want to have your cameras go out for service once a year. When you're setting up that particular resource, you say every 365 days, and then the site will actually send you reminders when it's time to do that. Checked out resources let you see which items are checked out or on rental. Wait resource returns is basically anything that was due back but hasn't come back. And then the site has a way to keep track of archived storage media. So what this means is, like, for every event after we shoot it, I take all those video files, I stick them on a hard drive, and then this archive storage media feature actually allows me to catalog that and then store information about where that media is found for each particular event. So someone says, hey, I need a copy of the video you shot for me last year. I can come into the site, go to that event, and on the archive media, it'll tell me exactly which hard drive I need to pull in order to get that data. The site also has a messaging system that's fairly comprehensive. It's very much like email, but it's actually more powerful than email. So it has some very cool features, like being able to set an expiration on a message. So if you you got a message you need to send out to your crew about an event that's happening next Friday, you can set that message to expire, say, Saturday after the event, and then it just disappears from their inbox, and it helps to keep things from getting cluttered up. It also allows you to send messages to groups of people based on their crew, their job. So I can send a message to all camera operators, and then I don't have to go through and pick each one individually. Anybody who's got their job marked as a camera operator will then get that message. And that also applies to anybody who signs up on the site afterwards. So if I generate that message on January 1st, someone signs up on February 1st, they sign up as a camera operator, and that message was sent to camera operators, that message will then show up in their inbox automatically. I don't have to go back and modify the message and add them as a recipient to that as well. So a lot of other cool things. You can also delete messages from your outbox and they disappear from people's inboxes. A lot of really cool things that are going on there. The site also features news posts, and so if you've got some information you need to get out to your crew, hey, we've got this major event coming up this summer, start thinking about it, start getting ready, or hey, we just acquired this new piece of equipment, you can generate a news post and that will show up on the site when they log in. You can do quite a lot with that. And another messaging feature the site has is mailing lists. This is really designed for communication with your customers. And if you want to be able to maintain regular mailing lists with people you've worked with in the past, this is a great way to do that. You can send out HTML messages to them. They've been personalized for them, so you can do things like insert their name in the message and things like that, or their company name, whatever you want. And this also lets you keep track of who's read your messages as well, so you can keep track of whether those messages are something that people are paying attention to, or they're just being ignored. So very cool things there. A send announcement is kind of like the news post, but it also lets you specify the destination. So you can say, I want this announcement to appear on all pages of the site, or just the home page, or I want this to go out in an email to all members of my crew, or it shows up in the weekly summary email message that goes out on Monday morning. So you can do that as well. Another one, I know our inboxes and our email tend to get flooded with all sorts of stuff, so the site has this ability to go back and review all of the email that has been sent, and so it keeps a copy of every email message that's sent. So if you want to say, hey, I know I got a message from the site, but I can't remember what it was, you can go to this view outgoing mail feature and then see all the messages that the site has sent to you. Under the admin feature, crew invoicing is basically the feature that lets you see the invoices that your crew has sent to you, make sure that you're getting everybody paid. Quotations and invoices lets you see all the quotation and invoices that have been generated on the site, whether it's by you or somebody else that's logged into your site. You can create a quotation or invoice, and I want to go over that one in quite a bit of detail because that's actually a pretty cool feature. And then we get into a lot of customization. So like for example, this edit skills list. Click on that, and these are the list of jobs that people can actually sign up for on the site. And you can do what you want here. You can add as many as you want, change the order. You can also set some kind of standard rates. These don't show up for the crew members. This is more for your own internal use to help you budget things. And there's some future functionality that's going to be coming based on this data. But yeah, again, I'll do a lot of customization from here as well. You can also edit event types. So click on that. There we go. So concert, conference, demo, so forth. And then these are color coded for a calendar that exists on the site there as well. Department list. So there's a way to tie events to different departments. If you're in a big company, you can basically link an event to a particular department. Crew payment methods. So that allows you to tell or make available different payment methods for crews when they send you invoices. Edit invoice item types. So you can do labor, a bunch of other ones. This extended attributes feature, I want to get into that a little bit later as well, because that one's pretty cool. That allows you to add your own custom fields to things like events, to contacts, to users. So if the data that the site collects by default is not enough for you, you can actually add your own data fields that go there as well. The file listing feature lets you see all the files that have been uploaded and manage those, and delete as needed, whatever. Activity log, so everything that everybody does on the site is logged, and so if you want to go back and see a report of who's done what, you can do that with the activity log. Site setup, I want to just go over this one very briefly here. So this is a lot of your customization for the site. So you want to change the name of your company, the name that appears on the banner, things like that, set an address, contact us URL, site config, basically more contact information that's visible to crew members. So, and then DNS and email. This is mostly for the people who purchase their own domain names. This gives them the information that they need. Integrations. So the site uses Bing Maps in order to do mapping, and if you want to have your own Bing Maps key, you can do that. Telephony I'm going to skip because there's some private information there, but we have the option to tie into Twilio.com for incoming, outgoing text messages and phone calls. So it isn't just text. It is a two-way communication that the site can do. So it doesn't just send notifications to people. It also has the ability to receive messages. And so, for example, one of the things you can do there, on the day before, the day of, and the day after an event, any message that's sent by somebody to the site is automatically redistributed to everybody else that's on that particular crew. So you don't have to send out a contact list to everybody saying, here are all the people on the crew. If someone needs to send a message to everybody, they just text the main number that you've been assigned from Twilio.com, and then that message is distributed to everybody else that's on your crew. There's also some other really cool text message notification things that are on there, like the site figures out how long it's going to take you to travel from your home address or whatever to an event, and then sends a text message when it's about time to leave. So just a lot of little things that are in there as well. Site features allows you to do some customization on some of the features that appear on the site. So if there's a feature on the site that you know you're never going to use, you can just turn it off so it doesn't even show up. So a very cool thing there. Custom graphics. So this is where you can change your logos, icons, those kinds of things. on the site. Custom CSS allows you to change the look and feel, so if you want to do a different font, do different colors on the site, you can do that through the CSS. And then this message text, basically these are all, well, a lot of the predefined emails that go out from the site to crew members. And you can see what each one of those things is going to look like. So if I click on one of this is basically the email message that's going to go out to them. And these can be customized, so if you want to change the wording, you want to add some additional information, you want to remove some information, you have to reach out to me and let me know, and then I will give you a customized version of one of these notifications. So, alright, and then just very briefly, we'll go up to the support tab. So there's a frequently asked questions section, and that is editable by you. So if you want to if you got some questions that your crew asks you all the time, you want to make that available on the site, you can certainly do that. The video section is, right now that's basically training videos for how to use some different pieces of equipment and how to use the site. That feature is going to get extended at some point in the future, allow you to do your own videos as well. Site changes is where I log all the things that I'm doing to the site, new features that I'm adding and so forth. So if you want to see what's going on, you can visit that there. Edit FAQ, so that's where you set your own. There's also a ticketing system, so if you have a problem with the site, or if you want to do a feature request, this is where you do that. You create a support ticket. The site does some cool things, like when you click this, it actually grabs a copy of the current page that you're looking at and includes that as part of the ticket, so I can see exactly what you were looking at the time you had a problem, and that's all automatic. So also under support there is a search feature there as well. And then under profile, edit my profile, obviously where you set your own email address, cell phone number, those kinds of things. And then the next one under here is edit my skills, and this is one of the things that's unique to this site. And then so basically what happens here is when anybody signs up for this site, they're asked to provide a list of the things that they are good at and the things that they want to do, and those are actually done separately. So when you create an account, first time you log in, it prompts you to go into this, and then it lists all the different jobs that you've configured on the site, and then each person can say, yeah, I really want to do that, or no, I don't, and then I'm really good at it, or no, I'm not. And that makes hiring a lot easier. It's so I'm not putting people on jobs that they don't necessarily want to do, or I can give people the opportunity to do jobs that they would like to do more, that they're not maybe not super experienced at yet, and give them some opportunities for growth. And so those things are tracked separately. Additionally, there is a calendar sharing feature, and again, this is one that I would like to demo here on the site today, but I may not be able to get to it. This basically allows you to have your calendar of events from Crew Access show up in your personal calendar, whether that be something like Google Calendar or your iPhone or your Android phone or whatever. So the site builds a link that you can actually include on one of those other sites or devices, and it automatically imports your calendar, your device calendar, and just it always stays up to date. There's also a way to publish the total event calendar for everything that your company is doing, for a master plan for somebody who is helping you out with the planning stages. All right, blackout dates. Again, this is a feature on the site that allows people to say, I'm not available from this date to this date, and they will be excluded from opportunities that occur during that portion. This last one here, before I go, make this page my home. If there's a particular page on the site that you always want the site to go to when you first log in, you just go to that page, click this option, and then every time you log into the site thereafter, that page automatically pops up. That was a request of a customer, where they have a lot of people who always want to jump directly to the event calendar, and so that's what you do. You go to the event calendar, say make this page my home, and then it will always remember that moving forward. I want to also mention the search feature. So it shows up here in the upper right hand corner, so you click on that and you can type the name of an event, or basically any of the text data that's associated with an event, a person, whether that be a contact or crew member, or a project or a worksheet, any of those things. It's all available here. There's also a keyboard shortcut that you can use in order to pull that up. So if you hit Control-Shift Spacebar, it brings up the search and it updates in real time. So you type in test, and there we go. So we've got news posts with tests, we've got test events, and so forth. So the search feature is there. It's pretty cool. It's really powerful, and I don't think that people take advantage of that as much as they could. So before I move on, let me actually take a look and see if any people have questions here. Okay, so yeah, so nothing that I need to address before I move on. So that said, let me actually kind of get into the core functionality of the site, which is creating an event. So in order to create an event, you go up to the events menu and say create new event. Fairly self-explanatory, right? And for purposes of the demo here today, we're gonna have a party. We're gonna do party for crew. All right, and then the type of event we have here. Well, let's see. There it is, party. So it's already in the list, but if it wasn't, you click on add a new type, and then you can actually add it right here. Makes it nice and easy. It's not part of a project. The project is there basically for larger companies who budget their events based on accounts and so forth, so you can create a project to keep track of that. Date range, we're going to have this party on January 30th of this year. All right, event description, and then let's get together and celebrate our success. So yeah, maybe we've been having a lot of fun recently and having a lot of work, and we want to get together and then celebrate that. Here you can specify a client. It's not required, but in this case we're going to say the client is DJP, my company, and you can fill in the name of the person that hired you along with the phone number here as well. And then here you're going to specify the venue where this takes place, and because this keeps track of a database of the venues that you've used in the past, as soon as you click in one, it automatically fills in the address. Now if it's a venue you haven't used before, you can also select add a new venue here at the bottom, and then this address information, once you've added it, goes into the database, and then that becomes available for future events as well. So place to fill in the venue phone number. You can specify whether it's indoor, outdoor, or both. Place to specify parking information. In most cases, you're just going to park in the venue provided parking. Here's the dress code for your crew. So we're going to say everybody's going to wear their DJP gear. And then we've got different levels of notices that become available for the crew as they're they're bidding and signing up to work the event. So this general notice, this is a notice that's shown on the website when they go to sign up for an opportunity, that's shown to everybody, whether they've been hired or not. So our notice here is going to be, this is going to be fun. So everybody will see that. And then the bid notes, that's a little bit more narrow in its scope, so not as many people are going to see that. It's basically only available to people who are eligible to bid on an event. And then we've got the internal notes, which are only visible to those who actually been hired for the event. So if you've got some information that's just maybe a little bit more sensitive or only applies to people who have been hired, you can fill that information in here. Now, sorry, we get into department. So in this case, we're going to say the video department. Again, that list is totally editable. And then you can, here with the financial, you can basically keep track of your internal costs. And this is only available to people who have the admin role here on the site or the event creator, which creators don't have to be admins on the site. It's one of the unique features of Crew Access. Anybody on your crew can create an event, unless you change that setting. But you can say internal costs. We're going to say this party is going to cost us $1,500. And if this is something we're doing for somebody else, it's basically say we're charging $3,000 for this particular event. There's a couple of checkboxes here that you can set. So you can say this is an unpaid event, and doing that turns off all of the bidding features. And so it's basically at that point that yes, I'm interested in helping, or no, I'm not. And then we have one here that says travel expenses will be covered by Crew Access, which would normally be my company name, right? So that lets people know when they're bidding that travel is covered by you. It also opens up jobs to people who live outside the geographical area of the event as well. So in order to prevent crew members from getting too much email, too much spam from the site, when you sign up for an account on the site, you basically say how far you're willing to travel for an event. So like for example, for me, I said I'm willing to travel 100 miles. So if an event is added to the site that's more than 100 miles away, that's not visible to me. It doesn't show up. And that way I'm not being notified of things that I would never be interested in going to. But this travel feature opens that up and says basically anybody from anywhere can now bid on this event because we're willing to cover the travel expenses on that. And then the third option here is this is a private event. So these events are only visible to crew members who have already been hired. So you as the event creator have to manually explicitly go in and say I'm hiring this person for the event, and then at that point that event becomes visible to them, and it is not visible to anybody else. And then the last thing here on this page, you're able to specify the video format that you're going to be shooting. So we're going to say, yeah, let's shoot at 2160p30. We're going to do 3 hours of footage from 3 cameras and 2 separate program feeds, and we're going to keep isolated recordings. And so that's the general information that's applicable to every part of an event. That's not tied to a particular day or a particular job. So these are the general attributes of an event. From here, I'm going to say set up dates and jobs. At this point, it knows that there's only one date, and so you can only see that there's only one date here listed. So this is we're gonna say the description for this day is party, and then day notes, and let's have fun. In this point, we're gonna say we're gonna provide dinner, so crew members know whether they need to eat before they come to work or whatever. Our call time on this one is going to be 4 o'clock p.m. Start time is going to be 5 o'clock p.m. It's going to go till 9 o'clock p.m. We're going to allocate 2 hours for teardown, and then my labor budget for this particular day is going to be $1,500. That information is just internal. It's just there for you to compare the cost of your crew that you're hiring against what your budget is actually set to allow. Okay, from here we're actually able to specify the different jobs that are going to be required for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and say camera operator for tripod, and you can limit your skill level. So when people sign up, when they say how good they are at things, that's a 1 through 5 rating, and you're able to say here, I'm going to need 3 camera operators. I'm changing the quantity here to 3 that are skill level 3 or higher, and then anybody who's indicated their skill is less than that, this job doesn't show up for them because basically they're not qualified for it. But if you want to open up to anybody, just say any on that one. And then specific jobs, we're going to need to have some overrides. Like, for example, maybe your technical director is not the sort who likes to help set up equipment, and so you have him at a later call time than the rest of the crew. In this case, I'm going to leave these blank because a crew call time is the same for everybody. So basically just leave those blank, and then it uses the defaults that I set up above. There's a new checkbox. This is a new feature that was just added, and say basically that this job can be done remotely, and again that removes the geographical description or geographical restrictions that were put in place. And so if you've maybe equipped to allow a technical director to work remotely, you can say technical director remote, and then anybody who has the technical director skill would then see that job and then can sign up for it. With that, we're going to say DJP will provide camera and the notes. So someone being hired knows that they're not expected to bring their own camera. And then we're going to add a technical director, and then we're going to add an audio engineer, and then we're going to add, say, a video engineer. And you can see that it's really easy to add new jobs onto this, and then it can set the quantity, set the skill level, override the call time, and so forth. For any of these jobs that we're adding to this event. Next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and assign crew. So if we know we've got people that we're going to want to hire on this one, we don't have to use the bidding system. We can actually manually assign crew members to the event. And so we can see here there's 3 camera operator positions available, and so we've got 3 different drop downs. Now if we click on this, it's going to show a list of people who are eligible to work that event and people who are not available or not eligible. And it actually shows the reason. So for example, we had somebody who had set up a blackout date for that date range. They would show up on a section on there called blackout dates. But otherwise, it sorts the list by people who are most skilled and the most interested in doing the job first. So I'm going to go ahead and assign Sandy Sanders as a camera operator, and I'm going to assign Will Williams as a camera operator. Set them as hired, and then I'm going to basically set the pay rate. So I'm going to pay $400 to Sandy, and then I'm going to pay $300 to Will. Sandy does a better job than Will, is more experienced, and so we're going to pay her a little bit more. And then we're going to leave the third one open, and then that allows anybody else on the site to actually come in and bid on that. And as the day for the event actually approaches, that you as the event organizer can come back in and say, I want to hire this other person in that particular thing. So for technical director, I'm going to go ahead and assign myself. I'm not going to pay myself anything. Audio engineer, we'll leave that one open. Video engineer, we'll leave that open. And then something that's available in the professional and enterprise versions of the site, this is a place where you can assign additional contacts. So before I actually started this stream, somebody asked me if there's a way to include non-crew members on call sheets and whatnot, and this is how you do that. So at this point we would say we're going to add Redfinch Rental, which is a local equipment rental company, as a contact on this event, and then they will get those, if I check this box over here, they will get those call sheet emails that are going out as well. So with that, I'm going to check this box down here that says set this event to active. Basically that makes it available for people to see, makes it visible. And then I'm going to click on the assign resources button. So I've already added a whole ton of equipment, most of the equipment that my company DJP uses for doing equipment or for doing events, and so those things are available here. So from this screen, I'm basically going to allocate those items so that first of all I have a checklist for the event to make sure I've got everything. You know, as I'm getting prepped and ready to go, I pull up the checklist on my phone, say look at the list of equipment that's been assigned to the event, say yes I've got this, yes I've got this, yes I've got this. It's time to go. There are other checklists as well, so you can have a checklist to make sure the equipment is tested, to make sure the equipment is loaded in, make sure the equipment is loaded out, tested on site. There's a number of different checklists that the site has. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and assign a few things here. So I'm going to search for camera, and yeah, we're going to use camera case number 6 and number 7. Go ahead and assign those to the event, and then it goes ahead and adds those to the event. I should also mention that this also reserves those things so that they're not available for other things happening on the same day, whether that be another event or rentals or whatever. So the site keeps track of how many of each thing you've got and make sure that you're not over allocating things that are already tied up somewhere else. Alright, so I've got cameras. Now I'm going to add a couple of tripods. So I've got a Sackware, a few Sackwares, and a Manfrotto. Go ahead and assign those to the event. And then let's also add a couple of HybridX Studio Mini recorders. This also allows you to do. I'll demonstrate the resource stuff a little bit more, but resources can be containers, and then those containers can have other things inside of them. So in this particular case, I've got my trailer here that I'm actually working out of, and if I click on trailer and click assign, it knows what all the equipment that's inside of the trailer and automatically includes that as part of the event as well. So it allocates all of that, make sure it's not being used for anything else. So I don't have to go through and add all those things manually. It knows that everything that's inside of that container is also going to be included for the event. And if you need to unassign something, say maybe you need to make something available for something else, like say, for example, we're not going to need this 200-meter fiber trunk. I can just come up here and click on the delete button, and then it's gone. So that then gets put back into the pool of available equipment, and it's no longer tied up for this particular event. Alright, so that said, I did mention earlier that there is a collection feature, a resource collection feature, which basically, I use the same collection of equipment for all sorts of different events. What you can do here on the site is you go into this resource allocation page after the event, give that collection a name, and then hit create collection, and then that collection of items then shows up on the list of resources that you can assign, and similar to containers, all that stuff then gets added back into the resources that are allocated for that event. So, alright, so with that, we can actually dig in and see a little bit more about what's going on with the event. So I'm going to click on this button here. So here is the main page summarizing the data for the event. So you got your event type, who the client is, and that's a clickable link so you can view more information. The location, here's your map over here. It does a rough data requirement based on some standard data rates that are used. So yeah, I told it we're shooting at 2160p for 3 hours and using this many cameras. It does a calculation so you know how much media you're going to need for that. There's a relatively new feature on here for making a copy event, which copies everything. So it copies as much as you want it to. So you basically say we're going to do another version of this event on another day. So I could say, hey, we're having another party on 1st of June, and I put that 1st of June in here, and then that brings up another page which lists the jobs that were there, and it lists all the different dates, all the different jobs, and it lists who was hired, and you can actually copy that as well. So if you have the same crew that recurs over and over again, you can use this copy event in order to do that. Come down a little bit farther. Here's the list of dates that are part of the event, and you can edit that dynamically, so it's not fixed. So when you first create the event, you're not limited to the events that you set up then. You can actually add new dates later on, and there's some cool rules in there. You can say add every Monday from March 1st through June 30th or whatever, and automatically it does that for you as well. Come down a little bit farther, a place for file attachments, and the site actually has explicit support for, well, I mean, you can attach most different types of files that you might need. There are some restrictions. I don't allow executables, so you're not going to be spreading viruses, those kinds of things. But, you know, your most popular formats, so your Office files, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Keynote, a lot of those kinds of files are supported by the site, and in some cases, in the case of like Microsoft Office documents, they become clickable links that actually allow you to view those documents right on the site. And additionally, in some places on the site, those can actually become tabs. So you see the list of tabs that are across the site. You can basically say, I want this Excel spreadsheet to become a tab on this particular event. And so it just shows up along with everything else that's there as part of that event. Event links, so this is a place to keep track of URLs. So I always put in the website of the client that I'm working with, or if we've got like a Google Sheets page that we're using to collaborate, put the URL for that, and then that becomes available for everybody. And then the last thing on here is the media archive feature that I mentioned earlier, where it basically say this is the hard drive where I have stored all of the media that we shot or that we used as part of this event. So that allows you to basically make it easy to find things moving forward. All right, worksheets I'm going to cover in more detail because that's actually a really cool and really useful feature. Here is the call sheet. So this is automatically generated based on the information that you've entered. So you can see here it lists the address, who created the event, a list of nearby hospitals, nearby restaurants, grocery stores, parking information. Come down a little bit farther. It tells you, in terms of lighting, it tells you the time of sunrise, sunset, the time of transit, which is when the sun is highest in the sky, and the phase of the moon. List of members of your crew, along with their individual start times, or the call time, start time, end time, how long they're expected to stick around for teardown, and any notes associated with that. And then we've got the rental information. The additional contacts. In this case, there's a rental company that's there included as part of that as well. And if I click on the print view button on here, this actually cancel the printing, but it creates a nice looking printout that people can actually print out and then carry with them so they know what's going on. You can also explicitly send a call sheet manually to somebody. The site automatically sends out the call sheets the day before an event, but you can send those call sheets out at any point in time as well. Okay, the run sheet. This is basically an agenda view. So you can use this in a lot of different ways. And a lot of the events that I've worked, we actually do have a run sheet where we say, this is our queue at this point. This group, say the camera operators need to do this. And so the run sheet allows you to do that explicitly. And it also, fairly recently added the ability for you to be able to specify what columns show up on there as well. Hopefully I'll have enough time to come back and discuss that a little bit more, because that is a pretty useful feature, and it's very easy, very quick to use. Discussion is basically the email feature that I talked about earlier, but it's tied to a specific event. So it's a way for people who are involved in the event to communicate with one another using an email-like or forum-like discussion. Resources lets you see which resources are assigned to an event, and again, you can go ahead and edit that at any point. Checklists, I mentioned this very briefly as well. So these are the resources that are allocated to an event. You can set up a checklist. And for the one that I always use is load for transport. So on the day before or the day of an event, I will use the load for transport checklist. I pull it up on my phone. It's actually explicitly designed for use on a phone-sized screen. And you basically say, I've loaded this, I've loaded this, I've loaded this, and that's done with checkboxes. And the site records who did the checkbox, and it also records the geographic location where they were when they checked that box as well. So you know if they're cheating. You know, if they say they're at home but the equipment's at the office and they check that box, you know that they're being a little bit less than honest with you on that as well. So this page here lets you see who checked the boxes and when, and it also provides a link for you to view that geographical location that was recorded with a GPS on their phone. Financial, this is where basically have it's a combination of invoice and costs. I'll get into showing that a little bit more here in a bit. It's a very cool feature, very, very, very useful. And then the last one on here is travel. And I'm just going to cover this one really quickly right now because I know I'm not going to have time to come back to it. But so for the travel, we're going to say add a flight and say this is for Doug. It shows their jobs and airlines. We'll go American flight 123, confirmation number ABC 123. They're in seat 5F. The cost for this flight is $350, but we're going to build a client 400 to cover our time. The departure date, and say that's the 29th. Time is 3:30 p.m. from I thought I had my home airport in Houston in here, but maybe not. Oh, okay, yeah, it's limiting the airports to the ones that are geographically close to where they're from. So yeah, that's what's going on. So we'll say Salt Lake City Airport, and that's in the Denver time zone, and then their arrival is 5:00 p.m. and then they're arriving at, we'll say, the Provo Airport. So you notice this list is actually sorted by which airports are geographically closest. In this case, geographically closest to the event itself. So it's really easy to specify that. So we also have hotels with similar level of detail, car rentals, parking, fuel costs, and then food costs. So go ahead and save that. And so that's there. It's tied in with the rest of the event, and this information is automatically emailed to that crew member so that they have that available to them. It also sends a text message reminder when it's about time for them to leave for their flight as well. So a lot going on there. All right, let's go back to the event. So yeah, come over to the travel tab, and there it's showing the flight that we configured there on that as well. Okay, so that's a very, very high level view of everything that's going on in events. It's a very powerful feature. There's a lot of detail that's being captured. Yeah, so for example, on the call sheet down here at the bottom, there's a place to record intercom information. So you say intercom channel 1, this is going to be our camera operators or whatever. So you keep track of, and there's a place to put in your radio frequencies and CTCSS codes and things like that. So just a lot of information that can be captured and put into one place, and so you have everything that you need in order to plan your event. All right. Now, with that said, an event is very often part of kind of a bigger project. So maybe you've got some media that you need to create ahead of time. You've got some work, some editing that needs to be done after the event. And so we have on the site something that we call a project. And this is relatively new, but I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to create a new project. And this, I'm going to call this DJP party. And then we're going to say this is a party for DJP crew members. Now the date range for the event is again just the January 30th, and you're not going to assign an organizer, but we can here's where we can tie in an event. So we have the party for crew, which has already been set up on here, and then that shows up on there. We can assign additional crew members and contacts that maybe are not necessarily hired for that event, or maybe not involved on the day of the event. So if we've got people who are maybe creating that media ahead of time, but they won't be there on that day, we can go ahead and select a crew member here. We're going to add Andy Bryce, and her role is After Effects comps. So we add that. Then we can include other features from the site on here as well. So if we want to build a quotation to include as part of this, that then becomes part of the project, and so it becomes part of this bundle of all these features within the site that are kind of integrated together. And so we can do that. We have to save the project first before that becomes available. But also worksheets. Again, I want to show you worksheets because they're very cool. Place to include some links, and then we have again file attachments. And this can be a little bit overwhelming. I want to show you a feature that's basically present throughout the site. So we've got all these different pages that have all these different tabs. If you want to view multiple of those, you hold down the control key and then click on multiple, and then only those ones you select actually are then shown on the page. Or you can click on all and see them kind of chained one after the other. And that's fairly universal through most of the site. And it's kind of an undocumented feature that's there, but it just allows you to customize the view in order to keep the amount of clutter to a minimum and allow you to see the things that are relevant to what you're actually doing. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this project. And at this point, come back in and say edit it, and then if I want to add, there's discussion messages, which didn't show up before, and then we can create a quotation or invoice. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on the plus button here, and then that's going to come over here to this invoice quotation system. This is the same system that's used for a lot of different financial features on the site. So building your invoice for your client, you can do that through here. The invoices that your crew members build for you, that can also be done through here. It's also, as mentioned, it's also used for doing quotations as well. So in this place, in this case, you're going to say the client is DJP, the project is DJP party. You say this is a quotation. Invoice status, and change that to quotation. And then we're going to say tracking costs for party. And then we can come down here and just basically start adding items to the invoice. So we're going to say we're going to need to rent a tent. So this is an item type of resource, and we're going to need it from January 30th through the 31st. And then it's one item, but we get charged per day, so we'll say item per day. Our cost to rent this thing, say $250. And then if we're going to build a client on this, we say we'll say $350 on this, and so we're able to keep track of not just our what it's cost us. We're able to keep track of not just what we're billing the client, but also what it costs us separately. And so you've got both of those things in there. And depending on what you're doing, like for example, when one of your crew members builds an invoice, the cost column doesn't show up; it just disappears. And so at that point, the interface becomes a little bit simpler. It becomes a little bit easier to use. We've also got some other things on here like a discount. So if we're doing a special deal, so we say 15% discount. It's a discount reason because it's internal DJP. In addition to that, it's also got some options in here to automatically add some things based on other information that's available on the site. So if we want to add a resource, when you set up a resource, you can say this is the rental rate on it. I don't think I have one on this, but I can basically say I'm adding this TO1608 audio interface, and that gets added in here. And if I did have costs associated with it, it would then show up on here as well. So it makes it very easy to just systematically add the different things that are going to be included as part of the cost of your event on there as well. And then down below, there's a place to keep track of the different payments. So you can have different payment methods, again, configurable, a reference number, so that can be a check number or whatever. Anyway, so you go through all this. Let's do a preview of this, and so it generates a page that is visible to whoever you want. You can email this URL. In fact, the site will actually email a URL to people so that they can actually view this. And there's also a way to generate a PDF. So I click on View PDF. Bingo, there it is, the PDF file that people can download, print out, whatever. So anyway, so that's kind of a high-level view of the invoicing features. Again, available not just to you as the site owner and admin, but also available to crew members to send you invoices for their work that they do for you. Okay, all right. Now let's actually take a look at the worksheet feature. Now, this is a feature that's there to help you collaborate with your client in order to make sure that you've done everything that you need to in the planning stages. So you make sure you gather all the information that you need, make sure you've allocated the resources that you need, and that kind of. It's basically just a way of communicating with your client in a way that's organized and has the relevant information already there as part of the worksheet. So I'm going to start a new worksheet. We're going to say we've got a conference coming up. We'll call this the DGP conference. And we're going to specify a location, so this will be at Orem City Center. And then we'll fill in an address, 123 North Main in Orem, Utah. Date to this location, the event is going to be June 1st. And then it's going to be indoor. And so this is where we start collecting information about the venue. So the room size that we're going to be in is going to be 50 feet wide, 50 feet deep. The live audience is going to be, well, with COVID going on, it's probably going to be 25, right? The event begins at noon and goes through 5 o'clock p.m. This is where we can record the time that we're allowed to go in and do the setup. This is basically where we're going to set up the equipment, back of room, any notes that are associated with basically the venue, a place to put in links. So if the venue has a website, you put in a link for that, and then supporting files, so diagrams, floor plans, whatever you want. You can include that here. So we'll go ahead and go to the next section. This is where we start to collect information about some of the video requirements. So we're going to say we have 3 cameras with operators, 1 without. In terms of live video display or projection, we're going to use a venue provided projector. Live streaming, we're going to use a venue provided internet connection, and then we're going to be going through YouTube. The live audience is going to be 500 people. If you want to specify the RTMP stream data, you can do that here. You can also specify a viewing URL. So this is basically, in this case, would be the YouTube video page. A place to specify information about the lighting. So in this case, maybe not the venue, it'd be another company, and we're going to use ABC Lighting in order to provide the lighting for the event. Alright, so, and then we've got some other things here. So we're going to want individual recordings from each camera, confidence monitors for presenters, integrated PowerPoint presentation. We need to distribute to other rooms on site. And then again, additional notes and a place to store supporting files. And then we'll move on to the next section. Audio production is going to be handled by another company, and that's going to be ABC Audio. Sound reinforcement is going to be done by the venue. And then we're going to keep track, say we're going to need 3 handheld microphones. And this is maybe information that's not relevant to you specifically, but would be useful for somebody else. Let's go ahead and record that here. So we'll need 3 lavalier lapel microphones, 0 headsets, 0 musical instruments, separate recordings of the audio. I'm just going to move on, try and get through this as quickly as possible. Then a place to record production and delivery. So at the very end, the customer is going to provide a hard drive. It's going to require some minor editing, and then again, notes and supporting files. Now, if you had multiple rooms in a particular venue where you need to set up, you can say different room, same date, and that'll allow you to set up a separate room. It duplicates most of the venue information automatically, and so you're able to say, we're going to set up in this room, and we're going to set up in this room, and then we're going to set up in this room, and each one of those becomes its own separate worksheet, so you can keep it all keep track of it all separately. Or if you're going to be doing the same thing multiple days in a row, say we're also going to be operating on June 2nd, we can say same room, different date, and that adds another worksheet for the 2nd as well. Down here, this is kind of the neat part of all of this. The worksheet feature is meant to be used by not just people who have signed up for the site, have user accounts on the site, but it's also for other people. You know, your clients probably aren't going to have an account on the site, and so what you do is you come down here, you fill in the client information. So this is Bill Bailey, and this is Bill's email address, and then you can set an expiration date, basically when they can't get to that link anymore. Or if you already have the person you're setting it to as one of your contacts in your database, you can just do your drop down there and select that. And this allows you to see basically kind of a summary of what that worksheet email is going to look like. So they'll get an email which has a link, and they can click on that link, and basically they get this exact same page that we've been looking at here in order to fill in information. So you as the video are not going to necessarily know a lot of this information, so that's what this worksheet feature is all about. And get this worksheet out to the people who have the information that's going to be needed in order to plan the event. This has been tremendously helpful for me and my company in order to make sure that, hey, we know exactly how many microphones we're going to need, we know exactly what rooms we're going to be in, we know how many people are going to be there, we know where we're going to be setting up in the room. They get us a floor plan so we can see exactly what's going on. Again, this has been tremendously helpful. And these worksheets can be created long before you actually create an event on the site. It's something that you can continue to build over time. And once you've collected the information on the worksheet, you can then have it automatically create an event on the site as well. So it takes the information that you gathered about the location and whatnot, and it automatically will then build an event for that. So you're not having to re-enter that information multiple times. So again, a very cool feature. This worksheet feature is available on all of the paid plans, even at the $29 basic, and even at the starter plan, which I didn't show you guys earlier, but there is a lower end plan that's cheaper than the basic plan as well. So, and this worksheet feature is available in all of those. So anyway, I'm going to take just a quick water break here. I've been talking non-stop for basically an hour, and I'm just now really scratching the surface of everything that the site can do. So anyway, go ahead and send the invitation, and now that email has gone out, and then Bill has that in his email, and can then log into this page and edit that information to their heart's content. The site also keeps track of the URL that they were sent, when they were invited, how many times, last time they logged in, and then how many times they've logged in as well. So before I go on, I'm going to check here in the chat room. Yeah, it looks like you guys haven't had a lot of questions, so anyway. All right, slow down my pace a little bit. It's like I'm drying out. I need a little more hydration. All right, so showed you projects, showed you worksheets. Go to job history and invoicing. So after your event is over, you have a place here to go and basically say, this is a feature for your crew members. Basically say build an invoice. I haven't been hired for anything, so it doesn't show any events here, but basically all it takes for a crew member to build an invoice is they check the event here in this list and literally say build an invoice, and the site automatically generates it, and then they click send, and that's it. So literally 3 clicks and your crew can actually build an invoice that they send to you. And then you, as the site admin, have a place here under crew invoicing to see who has sent invoices, who has not, and then you can mark an invoice as received. And again, if they sent you the invoice through the site, it's automatically marked as received for you, and then you have a place where you can keep track of when those invoices have been paid. All right, special projects, I'm just going to cover this one very high level. So a special project is basically something that you need to do that's not part of an event. Not necessarily part of an event, so you've got a video editing project. You need somebody to edit a video for you that's not a job that's associated with an event. So in here you would basically say, I'm going to create a new special project and say editing conference. And you give it a description that's available to everybody, and then you can give it a description that's only available to people who have been hired for that. You can specify a particular skill that's associated with that. For example, if it is an editing job, where's video editor? There it is. So you choose video editor, and then this becomes available to anybody who has marked themselves as a video editor. And then you can mark skill level, and then you set a bidding end date. Again, this is kind of a bidding system, so we're going to say we're going to make the bidding available for this until, that date's already passed. We'll go to the 29th of January. The project itself, it needs to be completed by February 12th. Anticipated difficulty, we'll call it average. And then the pay amount, we're going to say $500 for this job. And then you can specify a location for the files that they're going to need to do that. So you then save that. Whoops, need a description here. Video editing of latest conference. And then we'll save that. And then that shows up for crew members, basically under the opportunities. And then if that's something that they're interested in doing, they can submit a bid, and then you as the site admin can then mark someone as hired, and then that opens up to them that private information. So anyway, that's kind of that was a customer requested feature. All right, very quickly. So I'm going to do some crew member stuff. So view crew listing, basically just a list of all your crew members. You can do some filtering on this. You can basically say, I want camera operators that have at least a skill of 2, and then filter, and so that reduces your list. So if you're trying to find somebody you need to contact. Normally the contact information would be shown here, so cell phone number, email address, but for purposes of the demo, I've got that hidden. So there's that. There's also, you can say for example, I want to send a message to Will and to Bob. I check them and then come down here and send a text message. So I fill in the text message I want to send, and that sends them a text message. There's also a way here to invite a specific person. So we'll say invite a new member. Here you're asked to fill in first name, last name, their email address, and then you can include a custom message, and then basically this is the message that they'll receive. And in order to complete their registration, they just click on the link that's provided. their account is automatically verified, so you know their email address is valid. If you need to add multiple crew members at once, there's that feature as well. So we're going to say we're going to add contractors. And this is Kevin Roberts. And then you specify cell phone address, and they're in Orem, Utah 84057. And then we're going to add another one. And you notice there's a checkbox here. The site does a very intelligent validation of email addresses. It's not just checking to make sure that it meets the email standard email format. It actually attempts to send a email message to them and lets you know if the message was accepted. But it backs out before it completes the message. So anyway, it's a very aggressive testing of email addresses going on there. So anyway, so you fill out your multiple, add those crew members, and then they're granted accounts on the site. So yeah, there's that. All right, so I'm gonna move on to contacts. This is the contact database, and again, they have different types of client, sales lead, venue organizer, cast member, equipment vendor, supplier, product support, repair center, retired sales lead. So you've got all those different types, and that list is editable. So if I want to say I want to see just clients, click on that. There we go. If we want to create a new contact, we come up here and click on the plus button. Let's say this is a client, fill in the relevant information, so forth. Specify whether it's visible to everybody or just you, so it's private or public. And I wanted to show you guys the contact relationship or customer relationship manager. So with any one of these things, let's see, who is Tom Thomas? Yeah, so we're going to say we want to keep track of an interaction we've had with Tom. So I click on this little button here and say, on this date, I talked with Tom Thomas via phone and talked about upcoming event, and say Tom wants to have a virtual conference on March 3rd. And then we can schedule a follow-up, and then the site will remind us to contact Tom again. So we'll say on Thursday we want to follow up. I'm going to assign that to me, and I'm going to send him a text. And the goal here is to come up with to finalize the date, finalize event date, and then I say save, and then the site then keeps track of that information, and then on Thursday it's going to send me an email early that morning to let me know, hey, you need to contact Tom today. And then I click on that link, it comes in here, it gets me a place to fill in information about the conversation that we had on that particular day. So it's basically giving you a history of all the interactions that you've had with a particular client, and help you to schedule, I'll help you to build invoices. So you can see there's a link here to build a quotation based on the information that you've been collecting here, and then send that over to them. But it's basically there to keep you on your toes, make sure that you're doing all the follow-up that you're supposed to, or assigning it to other people on your crew in order to do that contact and that follow-up as well. So that's that. It's not a fully featured customer relationship manager, but it's generally enough for what we do in the video production industry. And this has been so helpful for me, because otherwise I just forget to make those follow-up phone calls, especially with potential sales leads. It's just not something that's in the forefront of my mind. So when I'm on the phone with them, I come in here, record the information about our call, the things we talked about, and then set a follow-up date, and then the site reminds me in order to do that follow-up contact as well. All right, so this allows us to get a little more into resources. So go ahead and view the list of resources that I have set up here on the site. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit this camera cable bin number 1. The edit and new equipment sites or new resource pages are very, very similar, so I can kind of cover both with one pass here. So the site allows you to keep track of resources that not just belong to you, but also to your crew as well. So, you know, say a particular member of your crew has a camera that you like to use. Well, you can put that camera in here and say it belongs to that person, and then whenever that camera is scheduled for an event, that person receives a reminder. It's like, hey, you need to bring this camera for this event. So because the site knows who it actually belongs to. In this case, we're going to say it belongs to me. It's a type of case. We're going to give it a name, a description. Then you have a place here to keep track of a manufacturer and a model number. This is where you specify the container that it's stored inside of, and that's where earlier when I said I'm going to assign my trailer to that particular event, this container feature is what allowed it to keep track of everything that was inside of the trailer in order to make those things get assigned to the event as well. I've got a place to store a serial number and an asset tag. You can put in, if the equipment already has its own barcode, you can put in information here, and then when you use the barcoding features within the system, it will look for a match in here as well, not just the barcodes that the site generates. You keep track of the color, where it's being stored. You can mark items as consumable, so things like gaffer's tape and batteries. It'll actually keep track of how much of those things you use, and so you can include that in a report and keep track of your costs associated with it. So if I mark it as consumable, you can say item, it's an item, or it's a dozen, or whatever. Anyway. So basically set the date that something has been placed in service, and then when it's taken out of service, and once it's taken out of service, it's no longer available for scheduling after that point in time. Keep track of where you bought it, so we can say like B&H photo, we paid $15 for it on January 20th, 2017. You can specify the salvage and retirement values, and that's how it does the depreciation calculations. And you're able to specify the different depreciation methods and how often that's recalculated. Specify notes. You can specify the manual, location of the manual on the internet. So the cool thing about that is when you say this camera is going to be used for this particular event, and there's a manual there, like all the camera operators that are part of that event will receive a link to that manual in their reminder email, and so they can read up on it or look up information in the manual on the day of the event. And if there's a training video they can reference, a place to store that. You can store dimensions, power information. This is where we keep track of the routine maintenance. So I mentioned earlier that we might want to have a camera that gets serviced every 365 days. You fill that in here. Tie it to a particular department, and then you can also mark someone as a custodian of that piece of equipment. So if it's maybe kept in their office or it's something that they're generally in charge of, you can assign that there. You can specify your rental rates. If it's a piece of equipment that it belongs to a rental company, you can specify that in here, and you can record how much it costs you to rent that. So then when you schedule that as part of your event, keep track of those costs. And then you come down a little bit further here, there's a place to add images, and so you can record those off your cell phone, take pictures of a piece of equipment or whatever. And then down here at the bottom, whenever that resource is scheduled for an event, you can say everybody, all the audio engineer, anybody who's assigned as an audio engineer will be sent information about this particular piece of equipment. So it shows up on their checklists and so forth. So down here at the bottom, we've also got buttons here to add another brand new item that's not the same as this one, or we can add a similar item and then it retains certain fields, the data from certain fields here on the page. So if you've got 3 cameras that are the same model, you can add similar item, do that multiple times, and like the name, model number, the manual URL, all the things that apply to all of them, those are automatically filled in for you there as well. So along with that, I wanted to show you guys the import resources feature. So this allows you to take a CSV file that's generated somewhere else. Maybe you had an Excel spreadsheet that you're using to keep track of your equipment. You just have it spit out a CSV file, and then you can bring that here into Crew Access as well. So here's where you specify, you upload your CSV file. I've already got some uploaded to the site here. So in this case, I'm going to say set up an import on this file that I imported May of last year. And here it shows you the field name from the file, and then that allows you to map to the attribute names on the Crew Access website. It tries to do an automatic match there, but where it can't, you can specify. And if there's data that's in your file that Crew Access doesn't need, you just leave those blank and so forth. And it also shows you what that sample data looks like within the file. So, here's the first 5 values for resource types, and then if you want to specify some notes as for the import rules, you can specify that here as well. So anyway, it's pretty comprehensive in terms of capabilities for importing, and then even down here at the bottom it shows all the resources that are currently on the site that came from this file, and so it keeps track of that. So this item was imported from this file on this date. That information is kept as well. So pretty cool. It makes it really easy to pull in the resource information from somewhere else. I'm gonna need a break here. Let's see what else. So also I wanted to show you guys briefly equipment check-in, check-out. This is also where you would do equipment rentals. So if we're going to check out some equipment, I say check out. I can scan a QR code with a camera on our cell phone or tablet or whatever, or scan a barcode. Those are handled separately. Or you can just manually select something from a list. So if we want to say we're going to rent out my Cinegears Express controller, select that, and that gets added to the ticket of things that are going to be checked out. And we're going to say who we're going to check it out to. So it's going to be checked out to Bob Cobb starting on today, and then its expected return on that is going to be on Wednesday the 20th. And you're expected to specify certain things, like you say the condition is amazing. You can add a note if you'd like to, and then once it's time to check that item out, you hit submit. Additionally, this same page is also used for doing rentals, custody transfer. So if you're changing the custodian of an item, and you check the status of it, so this allows you to record that information. Just to record the location of items as well. So you're doing an inventory, make sure you got everything that you need where you need it. You can also retire items or even create a collection from here as well. Also mentioned there's the maintenance checkout and maintenance return. So if something's going out for service, you can keep track of that. So you can say where it's been sent, when it's coming back, those kinds of things. So anyway, the resources feature is actually pretty well fleshed out at this point. It does an awful lot of things, and it's been tremendously helpful, especially with a checklist for me to help plan my events and make sure that I've got all the equipment that I need. You know, again, you've got all the different checklists. So you've got testing equipment ahead of time, you've got loading in for transport, loading for transport, loading into a venue, and so forth, checking it on site and make sure it actually works and so forth. But anyway, very useful, very cool. All right, so the cost report. Yeah, so I think that's covered most of the resources stuff that I wanted to cover. The cost report. This one, say event date is last year. Let's see if there we go. So this allows you to break down your costs basically by type. So we say last year we had these labor costs, we had these resource costs, and you can also say I only want to see the cost for a particular event or a particular project number. You can basically say where you want the data to come from, because the site automatically logs, like you've got your travel data, you've got your invoices that you've built, you've got your resources that have been checked out, and those things are kind of live in their own world until you want to import them into the financial data associated with an event. So, for example, you've got a piece of equipment you needed to rent. That lives in its own world until you go into the financial data for an event and say import. And basically what this checkbox is doing here, or this drop down is what here is letting you say, let me see the original data, so the resource, or the event financial data. So after it's been imported into the event financial data, or into both. And then say I want to group it by, in this case we'll say we'll group by event. So there we go. So instead of being grouped by category, it's now grouped by event. So this YouTube demo, here are all the costs associated with that, and if you wanted to limit by department, you can certainly do that as well. And then you come down to the bottom here, and it actually does these breakdowns. So you can say cost by event. So you can say that your cost for the YouTube demo was $480, and then this other demo was $80. Or if you want to do it by labor, by account type, or any of these other things. So that's automatically doing those breakdowns for you based on the information that it has collected. So very cool, very useful report. Year-end labor report is basically just a summary of what you paid your crew last year, and it's very useful for creating those tax forms, filling out those tax forms that you have. Time clock report lets you see the hours that have been logged by your employees. Depreciation report lets you see how much the value of your equipment has gone down over time. Resource maintenance due, again, as mentioned, you can set an interval for maintenance that needs to be done on equipment. And this basically lets you see the status of that. Checked out resources let you see anything that's currently been checked out. Late resource returns is things that have been checked out and haven't come back on time. So anyway, yeah, so you get the idea. Messages. I'm just going to very, very briefly go over this. So I mentioned earlier that you can send messages not just to individuals, but based on a job. So we're going to say we're going to send a message to all camera operators who have a 3 or high skill level, and then we're going to say add. So then all of a sudden that becomes one of the recipients. And then the subject for this is we've got a freelance event to shoot. You specify, say the message, and say this message is going to expire after January 30th because it's no longer relevant. And then you can delay the delivery. The site has the feature of automatically forwarding the email because we realize that not everybody's logging into the site all the time, and so we have the option of forwarding these messages to their email account. And then at this point you would click the send button, and then yeah, we'll go ahead and send that. Oh yeah, message body can't be empty, so yeah. Refill that out again. A little bug there I'll take care of. It's not retaining the recipients. Okay, so we have an event on Friday to shoot. So go ahead and send. And I love demos, right? Camera operator, skill, add, there we go. Alright, so go ahead and send that one. And then that shows up in the inbox for anybody who meets those particular criteria. And then when I go to view that message, as a site administrator, I can view the status of that message. So I can see here that I read that message today at 3:27 p.m. You can see when other people read the message. You can see when it's been forwarded to email. You can see when they've actually read that forwarded email as well. You can see if they've replied, and they can see if they've deleted the message as well. The other cool thing you can do is you can actually delete that message so that it doesn't appear, so it disappears from their inboxes as well. Alrighty. Mailing lists. So specify some mailing lists. So we have a mailing list for customers, and then we're going to create. We're going to go into messages. We're going to say we're create a new message, and it's from me. Test email message. Then we set the body in here. So say first name, comma, hi, how are you? And then we want to send that tomorrow at 09 a.m. and then it goes to the customer's mailing list, and then say send. I'm not going to do that, but you get the idea. And then once the message has been sent out, you can view the status, like has it actually been emailed out, have they read it, and so forth. So some very cool features there. All right. Extended attributes. This is a pretty cool feature. So this allows me to add new data fields to any of the different things that we talked about. So, for example, if I want to add a new field for crew members, I can say, click on this button here, and I'm going to say, I want to find out their hair color. Who knows why, but so we'll specify that, and that will be a text field. It's not required. It's invisible to admin. Then I say save, and then when I go to a crew member and view them, and see down at the bottom, there is now a field for hair color. And so basically you can customize the data that's collected for crew members, for contacts, for resources, for projects, for worksheets, and so forth. So again, the worksheet feature there is really cool, but maybe there's some information that you would like that to collect that's not on there. You go into this extended attributes feature on the site, and then you can add those data fields for yourself. So, all right, I'm going to take a break here a minute and read some of the questions and maybe address some of those things. Let's see. So read us one earlier, and I did mention this. We'd like to be able to share call sheets and run sheets with clients. So yes, you basically add them as a contact to the event, and then they will be able to see that. So we have not worked out how to rent equipment from a crew when we are booking them. Is this possible? Yes. So basically, you assign a resource item, and you assign the owner of a resource item to a particular crew member, and then you set the rate in there, and then that will, when you go to import the resources, it will automatically import that cost to your cost list. So we typically have a setup crew that physically sets up everything, and some double as camera operators, and other jobs sometimes they're required to show up on the day before the call time. So in that case, on my site I have a job for equipment setup and takedown, and then I assign those people to that job. And if there is a separate day where we're doing the setup, I schedule that day, and instead of adding camera operators and whatnot for that day, I will actually add equipment setup and takedown as a job on that date. So that allows you to keep track of that separately. So, Eric, is there an option to remove the geo recording? Not currently. So that's something that's important. We can certainly make that possible. So Felipe, that's incredible how many features Crew Access has. Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. It's, again, I've been developing this thing for 4 years. I've been working on this thing for 4 years, so it's got a lot of stuff that's there. So Kevin and Michael Reed, I've been considering Crew Access, but I've never signed up. You think it may be exactly what we need? Do you offer a trial of the professional feature yet? If you'd like to, I do have the ability to offer a 30-day trial for the professional and enterprise versions. Reach out to me in email after you've signed up for the free one, and then I'll convert your account over to one of those 30-day trials. So Jan or Jan, how do you track additional cables, for example, power supply to camera or converters? So you'd have to add those as resources, and let's see, the item, you have to either set up the item type as a container in order to have the cable tied to the, or the way I do it actually is I set up the camera case as the main item that I'm checking in and out and reserving for an event, and then I put the camera inside of that case, and there you would also put in any cables that are associated with that. Cables that are not tied to a specific piece of equipment, you just add those as regular resource items and then schedule them like you would anything else. Let's see, how to reserve for rental equipment. Basically, you do the same thing that you did with rental. You just set the checkout date for the future, and then if they cancel, you basically just come back and delete that out of the site. So Bullstream asking, what are the limits of the free version? So let's go over to the pricing page. So the free version only allows you to have 5 logins. So yours counts as 1, and that allows you to add 4 additional crew members that you can have log into the site as well. You can create an unlimited number of events. There's no limit on that. You can have an unlimited number of jobs per event. You do get the call sheets feature. You do get email reminders. You can send messages to your crew. You can store up to 15 resource items, so just kind of enough to get your feet wet and understanding the feature. But 15 probably would get exhausted pretty quickly, unless you're only keeping track of like a handful of cameras and a switcher or something like that. 15 might be enough for you. And then in addition to that, you're going to have 15 clients and contacts. You do get the custom Crew Access domain, and there's no expiration on the free plan whatsoever, so you can use that for as long as you want. In terms of other things, you can actually scroll down a little bit further on this site here and see. So, like for example, you don't get the ability to customize the graphics on the site or the CSS. You don't get technical support. That's just a little too much to ask of me to support all those sites. If they're not being paid for. You don't get the text messaging features. You don't get the ability to customize the columns on the run sheets. You don't get that extended attributes feature. Basically, you don't get the worksheets. You don't get the ability to assign contacts to events. No file attachments. You don't get the invoicing features to send to your clients or for your crew members to send to you. Those are only available in higher tiered plans. You don't get the travel features. You don't get the bulk add crew members. You don't get the time clock. You don't get the blackout features. Anyway, and so forth. You can look at the list. I mean, the site still actually is pretty useful, even on the free at the free tier. The biggest limitation is the number of logins. So I limit that to 5 logins. for your smallest crews, or for just becoming familiar with kind of how the site works. So anyway, so it's, like I say, it's still pretty useful, even though it's just a free tier. And there is a tier, I call it the starter plan. It doesn't show up here on this page, but it is available for free. Well, it's not free. I think I set it at $15 a month, if I remember right. So it's half the price of the basic, and it kind of gives you halfway between the basic and the free tier. But there are some. If you go to, let's see, what's the easiest way to do this? Maybe I don't have a link to it, but if you go to signup.php and you scroll down, there's the list of all the publicly available plans, and here's the starter plan that I was talking about. So, it's $9.99. So yeah, it's a little less expensive. So it's $10 a month for that starter plan. And then there's some specialty ones here as well. So if you only need the resource features, you don't care about scheduling events and whatnot, I have the resource manager version, which is $19 a month, and there's also the customer relationship manager plan as well, which is just for that CRM feature. So yeah, there's quite a few plans available. And if you missed the beginning of this video, one of my goals for the site was to make it easy to not only sign up but also to cancel. So if you find out the site's not right for you, that's fine by me. I don't care. I mean, of course, I'd love the income, but I'm not going to force somebody to use something that's not useful for them. And if it's time for you to cancel, it's literally just a couple of mouse clicks. You don't have to call. You don't have to email. It's just a couple of clicks in there. Say, cancel my plan. Okay, and you're done. That's literally as easy as it is. So, if you want to find out if, say, the professional plan is going to work for you, you can sign up for just a month or sign up for 3 months, and then cancel at the end if it's not going to work for you. Or you find out you want more features, it's just as easy to change your subscription tier as well. You don't have to re-enter your credit card information. You just say, I want this plan now. So, alrighty. Okay. I asked, perhaps looking at the possibility of turning off geo-recording. I can certainly look at that. So, okay, bull stream, 15 items is different from 15 sets. Yeah, so 15 items is 15 resource items that you enter. So that could be a piece of equipment, it could be a room, it could be a venue. Just 15 items. It could be a container, it could be, the case, whatever. And then the items inside that container, if you add them separately, those count against that 15 as well. Alrighty. So Kevin asking if it supports euros instead of US dollars. Yes, it does. Yeah. So I have most of the major currencies of the world on the site, and when you select your country, it automatically configures with the currency for your country. So every place you see a dollar sign in the demo, it will show your local, in your case, the euro sign, euro symbol. So Aaron asking if I've ever worked with Nimble Streamer. No, I'm talking about streaming stuff. We'll save that for another video. So yes, looks like we're more or less caught up on questions. Are there any features that you guys want me to spend a little bit more time on? This is your opportunity for me to get demo in a little bit more detail. Again, I probably, even though this video is now an hour and 40 minutes long, I still have only covered probably 30% of what the site's actually capable of doing, and I can go in into more detail on something. So Ivan asking, is it applicable for European companies? Yes, yeah. Regarding automation, how do you change currency? Is it possible to translate automatic emails from the site? Okay, so the currency is automatically based on the country that you select. So if you're a country that uses the euro, that will automatically show up. If a country that uses something else, I tried to support all the major currencies of the world. If I got one wrong, please let me know. It's easy for me to change. So yeah. And then in terms of translating, language translation is kind of a bear of a problem to deal with. There are some, let me actually show you guys. So if I go into site setup, come over to message text. So these are a lot of the messages that the site can send out. And these I could theoretically offer translations for. So for example, if I want to resource reservation reminder for crew. So if we wanted to do this message in another language, we can do that. You'd have to do the translation for me because I only speak English. You know, I'm not multilingual. But if you wanted to do the translation on one of these things, I can work with you in order to make that happen. There are some messages on the site that we're not going to be able to do that with. For example, the email that goes out to let crew know that there's a job opportunity for them, those things are built dynamically. And so depending on how the event is configured, depending on their level of security on the site, depending on whether it's the day of an event or the day before an event, there's a whole bunch of different variables that come into play. And so those emails are actually very complicated to build. And so trying to do language translations for those things is just well beyond the scope of what one person, me, can handle. If you want to watch kind of an informative video on the state of doing language translations, go look for one by Tom Scott. I think it was probably on the Computer File channel here on YouTube. Look for one called, it talks about internationalization. And after you watch that, you have a new appreciation for just how hard it is to do things in multiple languages. It isn't just a matter of filling words in here and here and here. It's a lot more complicated than that. And if you think that language translation is something that's trivial and something that can be done fairly easily, that video will really open your eyes as to how incredibly difficult that particular task is. Okay, if I haven't, it's a bull stream. If you haven't explained how to do organize the rentals of equipment to third parties, please do. I kind of just covered that just a few minutes ago, so yeah, you can go back and watch that portion of the video a little bit later. I didn't cover every bit of it. The only thing that I didn't really cover that's important is like listing the equipment that's out for rental, and that's just a report on the site. So something that you're curious about, you can go back and watch that portion of the video a little bit earlier. So again, another water break. I'm almost out of my water too. How many people watching the video have actually used the Crew Access site? So, like I say, we've got, last count there were 385 companies that have signed up for the site, and quite a few of them are actively using it. I mean, there are a few that like got the free version, used it for a little bit, and then didn't come back. I understand it's not for everybody. It can save a lot of work, but if you're a small company with just a handful of people, it might be easier to just do text messages and whatnot between you and your crew. I get that. I totally understand that. I've created the tool. I'm making it available. If it works for you, great. Use it. Take advantage of it. In most cases, it will make your job a lot easier. And in my case, it's prevented a lot of mistakes. The equipment resource checklists have saved me so many headaches. It's like otherwise I would forget something, like for the events that we do where we don't take the trailer, that resource checklist has been an absolute lifesaver. It's like otherwise I'll forget an SDI cable, or I forget batteries for something or whatever. And the sort of thing that you can't just pop into the store and pick up, and maybe the event is an hour and a half away from where I have the equipment stored. And so having those checklists has just been an absolute lifesaver. Many times. It seems inevitable if I don't use it that I forget something that's critical. So does the client invoicing feature support VAT or sales tax? Not explicitly. You can certainly add it as a line item, though. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. If you have some ideas on how to implement that properly, let me know. 'Cause I know that's a very complicated thing, particularly when you start to get into different tax rates for different types of things. Like here in the U.S., different types of items are taxed differently, and having to manage that could be a real nightmare. I know, because I had to deal with that in my job at Little Caesars. We had to deal with multiple different tax rates and for different people, different situations. Kind of an absolute nightmare. Well, some of the hardest code I ever had to write was dealing with taxes. And I've kind of avoided that with Crew Access. But yeah, if VAT or sales tax is something that you need to have on the site, reach out and let's talk and maybe figure out a way to put that in there, even if it's just as simple as manually typing in the value or calculating a percentage or whatever. So DK Gamecast seems useful. I'm opening a production studio and this could help with managing my staff. Yeah, it does for sure. This has saved me so much time when it comes to hiring a staff. I have on my own Career Access site probably 85 people that have signed up. People that I've worked with, some that actually watch the YouTube channel and are kind of in my geographical area and want to work with me. I've had a number of people who watch the channel work on crews for me, and we use Career Access to coordinate all of that. So it's great because I don't have to send out those text messages. I don't have to send out the emails. Juggle information from different sources. I get a response on text, get a response on email, get a response Instagram, whatever. I don't have to deal with all of that. Everything comes in through the Career Access website, and it's presented in a consistent format that's very easy for people to understand. So, one thing I haven't showed you guys is the process of actually signing up for a job. Let's see if I'm set up to handle that. Yeah, there we go. So basically what happens for a crew member, when they get an email notification that the job has become available, and if they want to get hired for that job, they'll log into the website. There's a link right there, and when they show up on the site, this is what they see. So they see a list of opportunities, and in this case I've been hired for the technical director, but say I don't want to do that, I uncheck that and say I want to do a camera operator instead. So I check that box and then I fill in the rate that I would like to get paid for that. So in this case I'll say I want $400 for that, and then at that point I say save, and then me as the event organizer, I go into view events and click on the little people icon here, and it says right now I previously set up Sandy and Will as hired camera operators, but it says Doug Johnson, me, applied to be a camera operator at a rate of $400. It also shows the skill level, and the interest level and the skill level that I have for that, and the number of years of experience that I indicated in my profile. It also shows me the distance, so if somebody's traveling for a long way, and maybe that influences your decision as well. You don't want to make people drive any farther than they have to. But basically, I say, as the event organizer, I say, yes, this sounds great. I would basically go in and say, hired, or do a counter offer and say, no, I can't do 400. I'll offer 300, and then that sends an email back to that person, and they can say, I accept, or I want to make yet another counter offer back. So you can have a negotiation process going on there if you want to, or you just say, I'm going to hire, or I'm going to decline in this case. So I'll say decline, and say save changes, and then it still shows up in the list, but then when I go to log in, I go to my home page, and it's going to say that was declined. So if they want to resubmit with a new bid, they have that option. So declining them does not prevent them from making another attempt. So anyway, I forgot to demo that earlier, but that's kind of the workflow that happens in terms of interacting with your crew, in terms of hiring for an event. So, okay, EK Gamecast, could you use it easily to help identify possible employees? You want to expound on that a little bit? I'm curious about what your thoughts might be. We do have quite a lot of information there that may be potentially useful in trying to determine if you wanted to hire somebody, but I'm curious what you'd like to see. Okay, Kita, adding a feature to allow photos of the condition of rental equipment would be valuable, or at least take a picture showing damage in a specific situation. That was going to be in there, and I just ran out of time before I published the check-in, check-out feature. The database supports it. The older check-in, check-out feature, it's still there, can do that. I just haven't put it in the newer check-in, check-out just yet. But that was part of the design. I meant to do that. I just didn't get around to it. So, Kevin, is there a way to set the offered rate? A lot of time budgets are set before a crew is hired. Yes, you can. I don't work that way, so I don't, off the top of my head, remember how that works. But yes, you can do that. So you can fill in. Oh yeah. So yeah, I'll show you. So when go to, yeah, so I've got my events. Click on here. So I want to offer or something. So I want to offer it to Bob Cobb. Requested for $300. So you do that, and then Bob gets an email saying you've been requested to work this event for this amount, and then they can say accept or decline or counter offer. So yes, so that feature is in there. So, all right, any more questions, guys? Again, there's a lot there, but I do need to start wrapping up. My voice is completely shot at this point, and so I don't want to go too much further. This will be last opportunity for a little while. I don't plan on doing another one of these videos anytime soon, unless I do make some major feature changes to the site. But I'm going to leave this video up for anybody who wants to come back and see it later. So anyway, but yeah, that's the Crew Access website, built with my own two hands. Wrote every line of code in the thing. I don't use third-party libraries. It's just not my style. I don't trust them in terms of security or performance. I know that most developers make a lot of mistakes, and I trust my own work more than I trust the open source community, if I'm going to be quite frank. But yeah, it performs. It's very fast, as you guys probably noticed. Fairly easy to use. I could probably streamline things a little bit. I should also mention, like, when you first sign up for the site, I didn't demo this, I didn't show it, but when you first sign up for the site, it actually kind of walks you through doing the configuration. So the first time you log in, it presents a list of different tasks that should be performed in order to get the most out of the site. And then as you go through each one, well, it has a link to find how to do that, or where to do that, and then with each one you can say, I'm done, and then that reminder goes away. So, and as new crew members sign up, they're offered some of those reminders as well. For example, specifying which jobs they're interested in doing. The site will continually nag them about that, because if they don't do that, they're never offered any work. For example, you want a camera operator. If someone doesn't say they're interested in being a camera operator, they never see those jobs. They're just not made available to them. Having this site send as few notifications as possible was something that was kind of important to me. I know what it's like to get a ton of emails that just aren't relevant, and so I try to keep the number of emails that the site sends to a minimum, and sending somebody a notification of a job that doesn't apply to them just doesn't make any sense. And so that's why the site is so geared towards limiting, geared towards forcing people to say which jobs they're interested in doing. So. Alright, DK Gamecast, like for example, camera operators or casters or presenters to hire as employees. Yeah, again, I'm curious to hear more of your thoughts, like how that would work. Like, what information would you want to be presented from the site in order to try and make that work? So yeah, Kevin, thanks for signing up for a free account. Let's see if I've gotten any notifications. Looks like I've had 2, 3 people sign up for the site since I started the demo. So very cool. Again, if it's something you're curious about, just sign up for the free site. There's no obligation. If you find that it doesn't work for you, you can cancel it. You can even cancel the free one, so it doesn't send you notifications any longer. But yeah, just go sign up for the free one and play with it. You can run the free one for as long as you want. I don't have a timeout on that, and I'm gonna keep it that way. I should also mention that in order to keep my costs to a minimum, the free site does not do backups on your data. So if for whatever reason my web server was to crash, the free sites will go away, unfortunately. And just when I was doing the calculations for how much it cost me to run the site on Amazon, the data backup for the free sites was kind of killing me. So I've turned that off. So I'm okay storing the database, even though it does cost me a little bit of money for the free sites. But doing the regular data backups, like I say, that was getting out of control. And so I have disabled backups on the free sites, just so you know. So there's a small bit of risk there that if something happens to my server, those free sites, the data on the free sites will go away, unfortunately, just the way that it is. If I was a multi-million-dollar company, I could and more easily absorb those costs, I would be happier to do so. But this is a niche site with not a huge subscriber base, and it's not bringing in a ton of revenue, and so I have to be careful with my costs. Basically, that's what it boils down to. So yeah, so that is the Crew Access website. And I'll let you guys on kind of a little bit of a secret. The idea for this site is not meant to just be video production. I mean, it's very video production oriented right now, but the idea was to actually branch this out into other industries as well, once it's been proven as a viable concept in the video production world. And so I've kind of been working with somebody else to try and figure out other industries that we can put this into, and it seems like we have identified a handful that where it would actually make sense. I don't necessarily want to reveal what those are, but if the site is actually fairly successful, we could actually branch it into other areas. There's an awful lot of stuff that would apply to other industries as well. In some cases, just a matter of deleting some data fields or adding new data fields or whatever. But the basic idea is I think fairly sound across a number of different industries, like contractors who work in a lot of different fields, to make a lot of sense, or people who work on a schedule, or they're mobile. If there's companies that are mobile, have mobile services, there's a lot of potential uses for a lot of these concepts in a lot of other industries as well. The main reason we haven't done that is just, like, the time opportunity cost. If Crew Access takes off a little bit more, I've done nothing to market this thing at all, other than mention it here on my YouTube channel. So it's actually doing pretty well, all things considered. But if somebody was to have the time to really market it and it took off, then we'd seriously consider putting it into other industries as well. So, both streams can delegate to the customers by providing a SQL dump of their database. I don't know if we want to go there. Yes, it's theoretically possible, but I don't think we want to. Go to the extreme of giving people SQL data, raw SQL data. Most of them would never know what to do with it. I don't think I have anything in there that I would have an issue with people having a copy of. There's not really any proprietary or secret information in there. Yeah. So probably just a little beyond the capabilities of most people who'd be using the site to be able to deal with that. So, Aaron, so it would slot very well into the theater and live event industry as well. It kind of already does. There's a lot here. In fact, some of my clients are actually in those sort of industries. We've got a couple of venues here in the area that use it for scheduling things and keeping track of their equipment. So it isn't just video production companies that this is useful for today. Just, you exclude certain features, just don't use certain features, and there are a lot of other industries that could use it right now without much customization. So anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. We're just right at 2 hours now. So to sign up for a new account, there's a link in the video description down below, or just go to crewaxis, crewaxis.com. Either way, I do appreciate you using the link in the description, because that allows me to keep track of where those referrals came from. It's just useful information to figure out which of the videos on my site or videos on my YouTube channel are actually useful for people who use Crew Access site. So it's appreciated to use those links. It just helps me to keep track, again, of where people are coming from. So that's very much appreciated. But as also mentioned earlier, if there's something that you think would be very useful for the site and it's not there, reach out to me and let me know. I am happy to add new stuff to the site based on customer feedback. It's one of the advantages you get from working with a small team, me. I'm very agile. I can make changes to the site very quickly. I've got a really nice library of code built up, so in a lot of cases adding new features to the site is pretty easy to do. For example, I had a customer ask me just a short time ago whether the option to make jobs available for remote work was possible. So they emailed me. I said, hey, that's not a problem, and I had the feature live on the site about a half hour later. So, half hour from the time he emailed me to that feature being in production, you're not going to find that anywhere else. So that's something that's going to be unique to working with somebody my size, So anyway, but yeah, again, if there's something that you think would be useful and it's not there, let me know. Or if you find that a feature is too confusing or whatever, I'd be happy to hear that as well. Maybe there's some streamlining I can do, make it easier, not just for you, but for everybody else. If there's features that you want that are going to be very unique to your particular situation, I'm open to hear that as well. I probably work on those on a contract basis where I get paid hourly for my work instead of making those available for free. But in most cases, if there's something that you want that I can see value to, that's going to be useful for a lot of people, I'll add this feature at no additional charge. So anyway, so there's that advantage, something that's a little bit unique to this site as compared to some others as well. So anyway, thanks those of you who have been watching live for providing questions and feedback, and for everybody else who's joining later, thanks for watching. And again, I hope that this has been insightful for you, and the Crew Access website will actually be something that's going to be useful for you. So yeah, go sign up for a free one, take a look around, and let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and have a fantastic day.